All right, good evening, everybody, or perhaps I should say, buenos noches. Yes, I know it's awful and cheesy, but today we are doing a Modelo Especial, and that is our beer of choice here, and it's not coming in through real pretty. Modelo is Spanish for model, Especial is for special. I am Paul, and I'm here to be the beer enthusiast and drunk, and Dave is here. He's a beer judge, home brewer, and this is our crystal clear goldenness for the evening.
Yeah, so we thought we'd kind of mix it up a little bit. What we're doing is looking into some session beers. So these are beers that kind of fall into a broad category of beers that are, we'll say, lower in alcohol. We've done some higher alcohol ones lately,
And
which is
more
an
common
experience.
too.
Yeah, this is certainly more common. You're going to find this just about anywhere. It is a Pilsner by style. So it is a lager yeast, which is a really clean yeast. It is bottom fermenting. It's colder temperatures. It's going to have a lot less estery flavors to it. It's a Pilsner malt, so which is also very, like if you see the color to it, very light colored. Not a lot of caramel notes, not a lot of rich flavors that you get with a lot of the other beers that we have.
It's going to be really crisp and really clean.
But it's going to be lower in alcohol, which would be something that would be great to have like 3 or 4 at work, like at lunch, you know.
It's wonderful to drink at lunch. Your
Absolutely.
boss will not have a problem if you come back reeking of
I think we,
Modelo. You want to hit the light there so we can just show them how
yeah,
clean that is. I mean, there's Dave through the freaking
crystal clear. Yeah, this is probably one of the more common styles of beer. In my experience with this beer, this is done really well.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these beers that are this light, but I don't have a problem drinking this. I got to be honest, most of the Mexican beers I actually do like. Modelo here is brewed just south of the U.S.-Mexican border, and it is actually owned by Anheuser-Busch. And the Modelo Brewing Company has apparently been around since 1925. Is that what we found?
Yep.
And like I think Dave touched on earlier, it's a 4.4% alcohol, so it's much lighter.
Yep.
It's going to have a more standard, common beer flavor if you're a Budweiser drinker, Coors drinker, or MGD drinker.
Yes, I looked a little bit into this before we started. They do use Saaz hops in it, which is common with doing Pilsner, any sort of Pilsner recipes. It's going to be very characteristic, that same kind of Pilsner kind of characteristic.
Yeah, there is like almost no aftertaste to this beer. This beer, unlike the beers I like to drink and some of the other ones we've done, it's not a dry beer in any way. It's kind of it's a light, refreshing beer, and really that was the point of this style.
Yeah, I'm noticing obviously a really nice light head, thin body to it, a little bit of pretty decent lacing.
Yeah,
when it comes on it.
You can see there it does have some lacing on the glass.
I notice a little bit of breadiness to it, which is kind of that beer type smell.
I'm not picking up a lot of people said they had the citrus orangey kind of flavor. I'm not really picking that up right now. It's a very kind of a thin beer as far as like the mouthfeel is concerned. It's like drinking a watered down juice or something.
Especially when you compare it to what we have been doing lately.
Oh yeah.
It does have that watered down kind of feeling to it, but not entirely that bad. It does have some breadiness, and I'm tasting that breadiness as well. The Saaz hops is, I think, a lot of what I'm tasting in it as well. Little bit of spiciness with it. It's good though. It's light and refreshing.
It's definitely on the fizzier side. That's one of the things I don't personally care much for. It's having a lot of carbonation, but a lot of people like that. If that's your thing, good.
This is the kind of beer that I like to sit down with a whole bunch of.
Yeah, you could kill quite a few of these in an evening.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. Drinking a 6-pack of these.
This is a summertime afternoon beer, honestly.
Yeah, it would be refreshing.
This would be, you're sitting around, maybe you're playing golf, maybe you're in the hot tub, whatever, swimming, doing whatever summertime activities you might want to do. This is the kind of beer you'd want to drink. I wouldn't recommend like our winter warmers for that time of year at all, really.
Yeah, no, they would be really overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So something like this, especially in Arizona, where it is significantly warm, something like this is really refreshing. It doesn't have that like intensity, but it's a very nice drink. Yeah. When you look at like the purpose of like a session beer, and I think this one's about 4.4 alcohol by volume, so which is definitely on the lower side. One that you feel comfortable with drinking one, maybe a couple, and not feel like, I'm here for the night.
I gotta say, like, if you're the kind of person who drinks Budweiser or drinks Coors, not light, just regular, or MGDs, this is actually going to be a very palatable beer for you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this is a palatable beer, and I don't care much for those other beers, but this beer, I have no problems drinking this beer. This is not a bad beer at all. As far as getting into our rating system here, I would say our my first impression on the presentation is I would give it a good solid score. This is an 8. This isn't what I look for, but there is nothing really wrong with the way this beer looks or smells. Mm-hmm. To me, I just like a thicker, heavier bit of action going on,
Yeah, I'm going to probably come in at a 7, which is probably a little bit higher than I would normally give a beer like this. But the one thing that I definitely appreciate is the clarity. Now, they probably ran it through a filter, but it's one of those things that just as a home brewer, you just really like to see a really clean beer. You can kind of see the bubbles kind of coming up through it. I like that. It's a moderately to high carbonated beer, which I kind of have a preference on. It has some pretty decent lacing to it, and it's got like that nice, really clean white head to it. So it really looks good. The smells, it's a good smell to me.
Yeah.
So there's nothing off-putting to it. It really tells me exactly what it is. A little bit of breadiness, and it's just a light, refreshing beer.
I am noticing the yeastiness to it. Mm-hmm. Now that I've had it put down, there's a certain level of yeastiness to this beer.
Yeah,
and I actually kind of like that, so I definitely wouldn't mark it down over that.
Yeah, it's kind of subdued in comparison to some of the ales that we have, and that's kind of the lager yeast characteristic. It's done at a colder temperature, less ester formations. Now, the Pilsner malts create, I think along with that yeast, will create that little bit of breadiness, which I think is what we're picking up, is that between the malts and the yeast, it's creating that kind of character that we're picking it up.
As far as the taste is concerned, it's not a very strong tasting beer. It's not overwhelming. It doesn't take chances. It's not in your face, but it's not unpleasant. Mm-hmm. And even though I would choose a lot of other beers over this one, and it may kind of sound like I'm giving it a low rating when I say this, but I put this beer at a good 6 as far as taste. I would rather drink this than I would drink a whole lot of other different flavors of beer. I mean, if I had the choice between this and like a Pacifico or a Corona, I'd choose the Modelo over that.
Yeah.
If I had the choice between the Modelo and, a Sam Adams, I'd take the Sam Adams.
Yeah, and I'd probably match you on that with the 6. It's light, it's refreshing, it's got a good taste. You taste a little bit of the hops to it, so it has that Pilsner characteristic that is really popular. I enjoy it. I think for what it is, I certainly agree. I think it doesn't have any, it's not overly bitter, it's not overly sweet. It's well balanced on that.
Right in the middle.
But it has a little bit of enough hoppiness to it to where it has a little bit of spice to it, but again, not overwhelming, anything like any of the IPAs or pale ales, but enough to be able to recognize it. It's pleasant. It's a good experience.
Yeah, it's a good beer. My overall impression of this beer, I would probably give this one a good 8.5 for my overall impression. It's, you know, it's not my thing. That's why I wouldn't, you know, I've given it lower rates on some other places, but this is it's a very well done beer. That's what I want to say. It's well done. You don't want to have to put a lime in it, or you don't want to cut it with like some Clamato or any of that other stuff.
People put Clamato in beer.
Yeah, you don't know that? It's a very popular Mexican thing to put Clamato in their Budweiser.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't
Learn
know
something
why.
new every day.
Yeah. In fact, they make Budweiser with Clamato in it now.
Well, good for them. They also make Budweiser that isn't even beer anymore.
Right. Well, I'm just putting that out there.
I'm going to go with probably 7.5 on it. I think they did a good job on this for what it is. It's a Pilsner. It's a light beer. It has some good spicy notes to it. It's real clean, which is what you're looking for when you want to drink a Pilsner. It's refreshing. It looks good.
I could easily kill 4 or 5 of these in an afternoon.
Yeah. Not my personal preference, though. My personal preference, I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to say, personally, it's a 5. If it is a summer day, I'm probably going to go lean more towards a Hefeweizen or something along those lines as a personal preference.
But if someone put this in front of you...
Yeah. I mean, if I had a lineup of different choices and my top choices weren't in those, this would be a good one to grab for.
Yeah, I am going to completely match you on that 5. I am neither here nor there as far as my opinion is on my personal preference for this beer. I do not love it. I do not hate it. This is a great beer. It's right down the middle as far as I'm concerned. Someone put it in front of me. I'm not going to turn it down either, you know. Summer evening comes along and somebody says, hey, have a beer. I got some Modelo's. I'm like, yeah, I'll take one. Versus some other beers I said, oh, hey, have this beer. I'm going to try not to name names, but...
There's a lot of beers that we would turn down.
Yes.
As sad as that would be.
We'll drink water instead of the beer.
Yeah.
So...
Hey, thank you guys for checking in on this. We wanted to be able to bring some different examples of some beers that we see on a more regular basis. This is definitely one of them. I put it in that session beer style. So overall, great experience. Please like, subscribe, and share our work here as we build our channel. We're going to trying to be putting out more content. We need your support to do it. So share it to your friends and like and subscribe.
Yes, please. And with that said, with my almost done beer, cheers.
Cheers. It goes down really quick.
It does.